guys today on this really special day, day of lasting achievements, a day when both the sun and the moon are exalted, a day when the first yagya was performed. Today is known as Akshaya Tritiya. It's a day that brings spiritual progress, wealth, good fortune, success in business, elimination of obstacles. It was a day that we chose to start our business, Utopian Health, where we're planning on buying a health and wellness spa that's located in the Colorado Springs area, and then add in some of the principles of Ayurveda into that spa. But due to the virus and the lockdown, then we weren't able to move forward. So to take advantage of this day, we still wanted to um, use these principles, and I decided to instead start doing videos. So now I'm looking into putting out this content for enlightened individuals, our nonprofit organization, and move forward from there. So today I decided to talk to you guys about my story. Um, without knowing someone's past, then you really have no respect for the things that they're doing, um, and what they're reaching for in the future. So I have a lot of people that come to me nowadays, that ask for my advice or tell me that my story and the things that I'm doing are inspiring. Um, Example, I just had someone last week come to me. They're in a pretty dark place. They reached out to me because they wanted to make a connection, a deeper connection with Jesus. And they said once they started to pray to them, then they was led to come and contact me. So I gave them some advice, and I get this quite often. Something that I just got yesterday was, what was the biggest difference in my transformation that made the biggest impact in my transformation? So I figured I'll give you guys my story. Um, so one of the main reasons I'm deciding to do this mainly is just to instill hope with others. Um, it was in a time, my darkest time, where I got some hope from someone, Jesus himself, as I was sitting in a prison cell and reading through the Bible, trying to get my life in order and choose a different path. And one verse in particular stood out to me. It was John 14:12, when Jesus said that not only will his disciples do the works that he's done, but they'll also do greater things because he's going to the Father. And, looking for someone, having someone to look up to, not just a movie star, actor, basketball player, whatever it may be. I wanted to look for something deeper. I was going through some really dark times, as I said, and the life that I had chose to lead, it wasn't panning out, and things continued to go wrong. So, looking for the highest of the high, I chose some really big expectations. I can't really say that I believed that verse when I first heard it, but I did have faith, faith in things unseen. Um, and I prayed. I prayed in my cell that day that, if you can show me these ways, if you can show me how to make this reality, then I follow. So, some of you guys may know me as Courtney. That's my name, Courtney Thomas. Some of you guys may know me as Breeze. Some know me as Ketu. These are all what I consider a transformation that I've been going through in this incarnation. And I just wanted to kind of speak with you guys about each step and how this occurred and how I was able to get to this point that I am now, and go from there. So, the story will be from my childhood in Chicago, where I grew up, to getting into some trouble there and going to an boys military academy for a handful of years, until I really graduated from high school. Got into a criminal lifestyle then for the next 8 to 10 years, and then my transformation of getting into more of my spiritual quest. So I think it's really important that you begin to know yourself, know what you're creating in this reality, get comfortable with that, start to accept that that's who you are, that's the person that you've been, but that you can also change those things because you have free will and you're able to be a creator. You were born in the image of God, the creator, and you can create the reality that you want. That was a really strong position for me. And once I was able to make that acceptance of who I was, then it really accelerated my pace with moving forward. It was a time where I would have been ashamed to talk to you, talk to anybody about these things. And, I think it's important that I can put this out so you can see my flaws and my weaknesses and where I've been able to overcome them and to, you know, reach higher states of awareness, of consciousness, and to begin to create better things in my life, change my paradigm. So, um, so a lot of people follow me mostly on Facebook. Um, I do a lot of posting under our businesses and under my profile as well, but I don't do too many videos. Um, haven't been as comfortable with putting myself on video yet. Through my birth chart, I know that my sun and moon are actually really close together, less than 1 degree. Um, that's showing that it's more of a new moon. I'm as close to a new moon as can be. And usually you see a full moon in the sky, everyone recognizes a full moon. They're more outgoing people, where new moons, no one really looks in the sky and says, oh, look at the new moon. New moon personalities aren't very outgoing, they're more standoffish to themselves. But I'm deciding to make a conscious decision where I put this content out here because I have a lot to offer. When I do offer information to people, they really vibe with it, accept it. So again, my main reason with putting this first video out, is just to give hope to people, where they can see someone's flawed journey and see that they can, be the person that they may not even know that they can become. So, um, so I'll just start off with where it all began. Grew up in the city of Chicago, South Side. Um, as a youth, I got into a lot of um, confrontations. I had some anger issues, not really sure where it all came from in the beginning. Um, but I was attending a school, Dulles. Grew up in Parkway Gardens, 63rd and King Drive. From there, I got into a lot of fights. I kept getting into fights and getting suspended. And I can remember a conversation that I had with my mom. She told me that, if you continue to get in fights, then I'm going to have to do something about it and try to get you out of the neighborhood. So I ended up getting into another fight, got suspended from school, got expelled from school. And I remember looking at some places in up north side of Chicago. And then we ended up finding a place in Glenwood, Illinois. So it was Glenwood School for Boys. Um, I met a lot of interesting people there. I remember it was the first time I actually really saw grass in abundance. We didn't really have grass where I grew up. Um, got to vibe with different cultures. Two of my good friends was a Hispanic guy and also an Asian. Met a lot of good people there. Some people that I'm still in contact with today. Two of my best friends, actually, still in contact with today. And from there, I stayed there until my sophomore year. Um, got into some trouble up there as well, and I had a decision where I could either stay there or travel long distance from south side of Chicago to my high school um, in Chicago Heights. So I decided to leave. I made the travel every day for my junior and senior year. High school went well. I was always great at school, high honor roll student. Um, Never had any real problems academically. So um, I decided to attend college. It was mostly for not for something that I enjoyed doing, but more of a way to have a career. Um, I chose computer programming at DeVry. Uh, really didn't enjoy the study, but I chose it because it was high paying. Um, I'm the only child. My mom, dad did everything that they could for me. I always lived a pretty exquisite lifestyle, even though we came from a poor area. Um, and they got me this brand new car to go to school. I know it was kind of like a gift, but it was something that enticed me to continue my study, even though I didn't want to do that. I was kind of beginning my criminal lifestyle at that time. Um, at 18, once I got the car, um, criminal lifestyle kind of started with me doing drug trafficking. Um, from there, I remember an incident that occurred where I almost got into some serious trouble, but God's grace, I was able to make it through that. And I ended up leaving that issue alone. And I decided to go down to a small town of South Illinois called LaSalle County. Um, I went there with some intentions in mind. Really just making money, not really trying to go make friends or establish relationships, but it was to get cash and head back to Chicago. And I ended up getting caught in a lifestyle down there where I started to create this alter ego of Breeze, which some of you may know me by. Um, Breeze was a manipulator. It was hard for me to say that for a long time, but I manipulated a lot of people to to bring circumstances my way. Um, we'll just say I'll get into that a little later, but um, I was there for about a year before I caught my first case. This was when I was 21, just going into my 21st birthday, um, 2004. And it was delivery of a controlled substance. And at that time, I had never been into any trouble before, but I was facing a 6-year sentence in prison for delivery of a controlled substance, crack cocaine. And it was a real big eye opener for me. I remember being ashamed mostly for my mom and my dad who, you know, didn't attend this life for me. And just through the decisions that I had made, I ended up putting myself into these circumstances. Um, a lot of negative programming, led to these things, negative belief systems. I said the manipulation. And I felt as though the things that I was doing and the people that I was doing them to, I could feel this void in my heart, in my consciousness. And I really didn't have any intentions of going down there and doing selling crack, but I was going to sell weed. Still the same thing, but once I switched over to this different personality, things started to go downhill, and they went downhill fast. So I ended up doing 2 years in prison from that. Went from six, you do half of that time, three, and I ended up enrolling into a drug program. Um, for anyone who's taking drugs, I was smoking weed at the time. So I went through the program, I think it was called Gateway at not Southwestern, forgot the other facility I was at the time. But that took some time off of my sentence, and then I was eligible for work release program. So after a year in prison to 2005, I think May, I ended up going to work release program on the northwest side of Chicago. I think it was um, Lawndale Center. We were able to as we were still incarcerated, but we were able to go out to work every day. As long as we were going to work, we were able to take passes on the weekend, go home for weekend visits to see our family. Um, so that was a pretty good deal. I was there. I had another year to go while I was there. I ended up working at, I want to say Goldblatt's, or North North Avenue, and I met someone there. I'll talk to you more about her, because it played a significant role in future events that kind of led during my transformation process. But we were just friends at the time. Never got too close. Um, but So at the end of that, the last 2 months of that sentence, I ended up losing my job. They laid us off at Goldblatt's, and I had a choice of either going to work at waste management or to stay in the house or stay in the center and not able to take passes because we had to work in order to take passes home on the weekends. So I didn't want to work at the waste management place. A lot of needles, different things that you're going through with trash, and I just didn't feel comfortable being around it. So I took that, once I started, I took that last day out and I decided to go to LaSalle County with the individual that I got in trouble with. And I was going to spend the day out there and then just come back and just do my last 2 months at the center before I was released. I ended up going out there and getting myself into more trouble where I caught my second conviction. Um, Still in prison or still doing a prison sentence, but I ended up catching another conviction while on this. And this was actually a domestic. Um, I went out drinking for the first time in a year and a half, almost 2 years. Was drinking moonshine. Anger came out about a situation that I was approached, and I ended up slapping the young lady, um, which escalated into we were actually driving on the expressway. She got out of the car. Someone called the police. We ended up getting pulled over, and I ended up having to go and do my last 2 months at the Stateville Correctional Center. All things, like I said, I'm not proud of. Would be used to be ashamed to talk about these things. Um, just kind of future events. All of my convictions have, well, my two felony convictions have been expunged now, and my one for this domestic, I'm actually in a clemency process. I've already went for clemency, and I'm just waiting for the results of that. So a lot of things have happened since then, but um, so I got out. It was 2 months later. They didn't charge me for any new or had to do any more time, but I ended up getting out from that, and I went back down to LaSalle County. I was working for 2 years at a steel company, O'Neill Steel, oxy fuel burner. I started to get things back together. Life was going well, and then 2008 came around and the crash, and ended up losing my position, job from that, and I ended up getting back into the lifestyle again. I didn't feel comfortable with selling crack cocaine to anyone. I've always been an advocate for cannabis, use it myself, and I got back into selling cannabis at that time. Um, Started to build up some pretty good relationships. Things were going really good. Um, Unfortunately, since they were going so well, being in a small town and the people that I was around all the time started to attract a lot of attention. Uh, End up building a reputation, and I end up catching another case about 4 years later. About 4 years went by from the time that I got out, because this was 2010 now. So this case was a another problem with anger, where the police came to my house and they put like their hands on my girlfriend at the time. They end up grabbing her by the back of her neck, face first her into the ground. And when they did that, I got off the couch and moved towards them, and they came towards me. So started fighting with them, two officers. So I ended up getting resistant arrest charge with an injury to officer. Forgot what happened to him, but this was my third conviction now. And by then, this was 2010, and I just, as I felt myself, going downhill, feeling really ashamed, having my mom come back into this reality of me going back to prison again, it really put a lot on me. I did about a week in county before I got out and started fighting this case. I remember the day that I got out, it was September 2nd, 2010. And my girlfriend at the time, she ended up coming over the day I got out, and I took MDMA for the first time. I was in a really bad state, and I'm actually glad this all happened because this is where my spiritual journey actually began. Um, that night, I ended up having kind of a channeling experience where, um, as these mind altering substances work, um, they put me in a different state of consciousness. And what I was able to realize as I moved forward was I was able to receive information that of what I would end up doing, my future events, and how they would all play out. And it was a really profound experience, something that changed my whole paradigm. I thought that it was God speaking to me. I just knew that's what it felt like. I remember waking up the next morning, going downstairs for breakfast, and I ended up praying. And I felt like this overwhelming energy over me where, God had spoke to me. So I went on this journey of trying to open up religiously. It was the beginning of, I would say, my religious journey. And I didn't go to prison right then and there. It was still about 3 or 4 months, and I was still, trying to transition from a lifestyle. I started, went to a school, Oaksterdam. Actually, started learning how to grow cannabis. Started working at doing property preservation. All this was leading up into my case. I really thought that I was going to beat the case, but I ended up going to prison again in 2011 for that charge. And I decided that I would go through the Bible, started to find out who this God was that contacted me and showed me all of these events and learn more about him. So um, I got to prison. We were doing I was doing Bible study and kind of just trying to find my way. I can remember reading through the entire Bible, and that's when I ended up coming across this verse, John 14:12. Um, it really hit me hard. Like I said, I didn't really have belief in that, but the faith really unseen, it really started to progress me forward. And from there, everything was just, it started to get better. I ended up getting out of prison in 2012, um, March 7, 2012. The first thing I did was I met a good pastor in there who I was able to, relate with. And the first thing I did, I had my mom and my dad take me to get baptized. Went and got baptized and spent some time with the pastor. And I ended up coming home and finding a church, was attending church, you know, every Sunday, just trying to stay in a religious mindset once I got out, and keep pace with what I was doing and not lose all the progress that I made. So after the baptism, I remember going through kind of a state where things were getting stagnant over the next, I want to say, 2 years, where it felt like I wasn't moving anywhere or progressing anywhere religiously. And it got to a point where this is where my spirituality began. I can remember back in 2013, I'll get to the point where I was making before. The young lady that I met while I was in work release, we made this connection, but we never moved anything forward. And it was supposed to be until I got out of work release. And when I caught that case, we ended up losing contact. We didn't have each other's numbers, so we didn't speak again from 2007, 6, or whatever until 2013, where I was just out and randomly we end up meeting again. She recognized me, and we developed a close relationship. We already had it, the part before, and because we met again so synchronistically, we formed a short relationship where things moved pretty fast. And this was the first, like, going into this new me. This was the first time that I wasn't in a manipulating relationship of trying to get something from a woman, but actually put my heart and devotion into it. And the way that I was feeling, this was the end of 2012, as we were going through this dimensional shift and what was going on. I'll talk more about that as well. But yeah, everything felt right and felt real. And then because I was still living a lifestyle, still in the cannabis lifestyle, that's not something that she agreed with. And she wanted me to transition out of that. I wasn't ready completely to transition out at the time. And we ended up taking our separate paths. I remember being really devastated by this for quite some time, all throughout 2013, actually. It felt like my heart, had exploded. My heart chakra opened up. I was able to feel this empathy for all of these women in my past that I had hurt before, manipulated before, and, played with their heart and their emotions. And now this was my first time of going through something like this, and it really shook me. This was a pretty profound time for me because this is when I actually formed Enlightened Individuals. Not as a nonprofit organization, but I was trying to redevelop myself, on all levels, on all aspects of life, whether spiritual, mental, emotional, financial, um, in all aspects. And I remember hearing, in order to do this, in order to help others and make it, an organization to help others do these things, that I first have to do these things myself. So I formed the LLC of Enlightened Individuals December 27, 2013. Never really went anywhere, but this is kind of when my journey started. Um, I remember starting yoga. And when I'm saying yoga now, I'm talking about asanas, not the full form of yoga, but I started asanas. And the more that I was growing and trying to learn about the yoga tradition, there's a path to yoga, 8 paths to yoga. What I realized, something that they call yama and niyama, these are like the do's and don'ts of things that you want to do and have in your reality, and things that you no longer want to have there. And I realized that these were kind of sort of like things in religion that I had learned previously over these previous 1, 2, 3 years. Um, yeah, things kind of like the Ten Commandments: do these, don't do these. And I had built a foundation in that. And I felt like that's where things kind of got stagnant for me, as I was saying earlier. So from there, I got into yoga asanas. I kept hearing, okay, it's time to work on the body. I stopped really attending church about 2013. And I kept hearing that, God is within, and that if you really want to know the creator, then you have to clean out the body, clean the physiology. So I also saw this as an opportunity to find a working position. Um, it was hard for me to find a job at that time, so I figured that if I could become a yoga teacher, that this would be something that I can teach and I can be good at, something that I can enjoy doing, and yeah, go from there. So I started looking for yoga retreats to be a yoga teacher trainings, and I ended up coming across Deepak Chopra. He was doing some 21-day meditations with Oprah Winfrey, and I started going through this meditation process while I was actually doing the yoga asanas, and I figured that since he was well known at that time, he was doing things with Oprah, that I would go do the teacher training that he offered. This would be another bonus of me finding clients and putting things together. So I started looking into his teacher training, but that never really came to fruition. Um, I end up going to see him later on, but it didn't happen with the teacher training. Um, a little bit after that, about a year, I guess, 2014. Yeah, about 2000, sometime in 2014, I end up starting a business with my friend. Um, I told you I was doing something called property preservation before then. Me and another friend of mine was helping someone. We got really good at what we were doing. There was a lot of money involved in that. So one of my good friends that I was in Glenwood with, he actually decided he wanted to open his own business and me to manage it. So me looking for work at the time, I thought it was a good idea. So I ended up doing that, and for about 6 or 7 months, we really got a good establishment with the business we were subcontracting for, and things started to get better. Um, now I had work, things was going good, and everything was kind of flowing from there. We got into a bit of a disagreement with things, and at the end of December 2014, I just decided to go my own way, and the people that we were subcontracting for, because me and my partner were doing so well with them, and I decided to leave. They saw a lot of money diminish with their sales with things that were going on. So they approached me to ask me what was happening and why I ended up leaving, and if I would consider coming back and being a partner under them. That they would supply all the money. I can get a group of people together, and this is how I started my first business, TNB Enterprise. This all started to come about after I started putting more focus within myself. God is within. And I started to do the works of detoxification processes and yoga, movement, exercise, changing my diet, random things, and then this is where my things that I had been, trying to create for so long, they started to manifest for me. This was the beginning of that process. So I started my first business December 2014. About 4 months later, I mentioned before that I went to Amsterdam University to learn how to grow cannabis. Um, and I had this opportunity where some cannabis investors came to Illinois. They knew that the city or the state was going to open up soon. They were from Colorado. They did a pitch, and they had us do a pitch to them about a business idea. So I ended up meeting with them. It was ended up turning out to be a good meeting, a good transition to what I was doing. Um, and they offered me a position to come out to Colorado and to start not the exact business that I was looking to do, because I was looking just to be a grower at the time, but they offered me a different position in the cannabis field, and around 420, 2015, I decided to come out to see what their opportunity was and if I would move forward on that. So me and my friend drove out. We went to the Cannabis Cup in 2015. And yeah, from there, I ended up meeting Ari, my wife now. She was also in the cannabis business, event planning, and we had a close connection, a connection that happened really fast. Um, I remember our first date, she introduced me into mushrooms. Now, I can kind of talk about this for a second because this was where I kind of got some cognition of what these mind altering substances were doing um, consciously to expand awareness. Now, I had only took the MDMA one time. This was in, I said, 2010, 9, September 2nd, 2010. Even though I had started this journey, it sparked my journey for religion and spirituality. I never quite had an experience like I had then again. And in 2015, I want to say May, we had this first date per se, and she introduced me to mushrooms. And this was my first time taking mushrooms as well. And this was an experience like I had before when I took the MDMA. And it was able to like give me consciousness of wow, everything that I was told or shown back in 2010, it actually happened. The things that I channeled that day, that I was receiving from my highest self or from the creator, it actually came to fruition. Everything except for the children. I was told that I was shown these two children that I would have, a boy and a girl. And then later on, as I started to go into the religion aspect, I also was given more information about the children that they would come from Jewish Hebrew lineage. So once I had this experience with Ari, with the mushrooms, I was shown that this was the individual that I was going to have the kids with, and this is why I came from this Hebrew lineage. And it was really eye-opening, breathtaking. Um, Things went really fast from there. I knew she was the one for me. It was almost as God gave me the message and showing me what it was to do. So um, also, because I was able to get more in the cannabis field, I had the job or the business TNB Enterprise that I had started, but it wasn't something that fulfilled me. Um, so I decided that I would dismantled the business. I moved to Colorado in June. I want to say June. And I started my new life with Ari and the life of spirituality where things really started to go full ahead. Um, I'll transition from here into energy. So not too long later, while I was in, while I was now living in Colorado full time, it was actually 11/11/2015. We had did some cleanses. We were cleansing the body, trying to work on the pineal gland, the chakras, all of these different things that I was hearing at the time. Doing beach body detoxes, all of these different things. And 11/11/15, I had this energetic experience while I was taking a salt bath, and overwhelming energy just overtook me. I was in the bath and I started to think about my grandmother. Um, and she's going through some medical issues with emphysema. And it was just really overwhelming for me where I felt like I had the energy to heal her, but I didn't know how to cultivate it. And once this energy overtook me, I remember just like bawling, crying, overwhelmed in the tub for 10 or 15 minutes where I just couldn't control it. It was just energy release. And afterwards, I could remember thinking, like, how strong this energy was, and that if I was able to somehow learn how to cultivate this energy, that this is the type of energy that Jesus was using to heal others, channeling energy from earth, from heaven, through his physical body, where electromagnetic, electric, electromagnetic beings, and that if I can control this or cultivate it, then I can use this to heal others. So um, I remember going through that. From there, we went to actually see one of Ari's chiropractic friends that day. She had a session. He mentioned to me about cryon, and I was learning some different things from him, and things just kind of started elevating from there. Started getting into Akashic readings, acupuncture, qigong, Kriya yoga. All these things really came from the energy aspect, and I'll speak a little bit more on those. But another big event that happened about a month later, we decided to actually go to the Deepak Chopra Center, something that I had been trying to, create for some time. We finally were able to make that happen. So me and Ari went together, but it wasn't for a yoga teacher training. It was actually for something called Panchakarma, Ayurveda. And it was a detoxification process that we went and did for 10 days. Um, it's a pretty deep, intense cleanse on a cellular level, mind, body, and spirit. The Chopra Center is pretty expensive here in America, about $400 or $500 a day, um, but it was worth it. I'll just say things started really progressing from there. I ended up buying a house 2 months later. Like things that I really wanted to create easily just started manifesting. I continued to hear clean the physiology, clean the body. As long as you can clean the body, you can clean your temple, and that you can have more states of awareness. So, um, one of the big things that my wife, she was able to realize, because I still had this issue with anger. Um, it was still there. It wasn't something that just went away. I was working on it consciously, but after the cleanse, she was able to see like this very calm person that started to come out, and I didn't have those issues no more. What I was able to know through Ayurveda is that we have these different imbalances within our physiology through toxins that we build up, the foods that we eat, the non exercise, the emotional traumas that we don't process. And these things get caught in these subtle energy channels within our body. And when we have emotions, energy that's in motion, then if those energies aren't able to flow through the body and be released, then they'll get trapped up and you have things like anger. So I had some things caught up in me. They're called pitta imbalances, more fiery, hot anger imbalances. And that's where that went to. So, um, Ayurveda was a really big thing. As I said, I started to do the daily routines, take the herbal remedies, lifestyle changes, all of these different things that I was taught at the Chopra Center, and things just continued to manifest for me. I could remember being back in prison, and I was reading a magazine called The Rob Report. Rob Report had like all of the exquisite things in the world, and the issue was about top 10 places in the world to get married, um, and top 10 rings to do that. So I remember saying the number two place was in Fiji, and I'm like, it's something I really want to do one day. I was creating that at the time, and I want to have this Viraggio ring. And after I, had this cleanse and I came back, I ended up getting the ring. This was in December, Christmas actually, 2015. I was able to get the ring, proposed to Ari. So we got engaged at that time. As things moved forward, we ended up doing the marriage. But things just started to instantly like manifest with ease. I was able to purchase the home, as I said, 2 months later. Not only just a home for us to live in, but one of my biggest dreams was to have a grow house. to grow my own cannabis, something that I had been trying to do for 5 years prior, 6 years prior. That happened. Someone just manifested the money for us to get all of the equipment, and we were able to start that. I got a license to grow, even as a convicted felon. I was able to get a license to grow. I was growing at my own home. Everything was just really progressing and moving forward for me. Um, credit. Credit is a big thing. As I said, I wanted to have some way to do all aspects of life, and financial was a big aspect to making your dreams reality. So the credit issue, I started actually back in 2013. My dad told me about a program for first-time home buyers. I forgot the actual name of the people, but this is where I started to learn about credit and how to use it for my advantage. At the time, I had like a low 500 score, a lot of inquiries, a lot of missed payments, things that went into collection, and I started to build those things from there. Lexington Law, that was actually the name of the company. They got a lot of my things removed. I started to move forward from there. Over the years, credit continued to grow. I got my first credit cards. Money started to build up on those. Um, that got my credit in a good enough position to purchase a home. Because my business was less than 2 years at that time, my dad did a co-signing for financial reasons, but as far as credit, everything was good. So I became a first-time home buyer. Um, Everything just continued to manifest and manifest. Um, uh, my birthday came around, I want to say 2016, and the Akashic readings. So the Cryon guy that I met, he's a channel. We went to one of his channeling events and found out about this lady who does Akashic readings. Something called me, higher self called me to that. And the Akashic reading really wasn't that, to me, wasn't that profound from the person that I got it from. But one thing that I was able to receive was information about Paramahansa Yogananda and the autobiography of a yogi. She gave me that book as I was leaving out of the door and said, just make sure you read it. So I want to say about 6 months or so went by before I actually looked into it by finding something else. As I was finding paths of yoga, I think Kriya Yoga came up. And I had completely forgot that I even had the book, but I ended up, getting into that. And I can talk about that for a minute because it was pretty profound, especially with the energy that I was seeking, trying to cultivate. So Paramahansa Yogananda, guru, that came over in the 1917 or something like that, 1920. He brought a path of yoga called Kriya Yoga to the U.S., which is one of the paths, because one of the paths is pranayama. So to that point, I had the yamas, the niyamas, the asanas, and now I was going into a different path of pranayama. Pranayama meaning how to circulate energy throughout the body with your mind in order to put your body physiology into a prime state for meditation. And he has a lot of different pranayama techniques, Kriya Yoga being one of his most advanced. But I had started the process of, using these techniques. And the more I used them, I was able to recognize that these, techniques really worked. As an example, about a year after using the techniques, I got into a place where I was able to mentally circulate energy throughout my body just using my mind. So one day after a hatha yoga session, um, I was outside and I was doing the pranayama techniques. And what I was doing was a mixture of qigong and the Kriya Yoga, which is something that I know now shouldn't be done. Um, these things are very ancient and powerful, and it's not really good to mix techniques. Um, you have to be cautious with what you're doing because I actually had some things that were going on that shouldn't have been happening. So what I was doing was mentally bringing prana in, bringing it down to what the Chinese call the dantian, and I would charge it. I would just lead the energy down with my mind, charge it up in my dantian area, and then bring it back up the spine to the brain. And I was doing this for quite some time, maybe about 6 weeks or so, where I was starting to feel this energy, and I can, I'll be vibrating, or I'll start to see colors in my third eye, geometrical shapes. All of these things were happening, and it really hit me. Um, like that I was doing this because I guess I was trying to prove it to myself that it really works. And I was sitting there after this hatha yoga session, which really roused up the energy within the body to begin with, connects it with the sun and the moon. And I did this technique, and I felt a voltage of energy going throughout my body. And I lost consciousness, fell out, and I busted my one of these places over here. I fell on the concrete and hit my head face first. Blood was everywhere. Everyone came around me. Um, they were saying that it looked like I was having a seizure. But what I could feel inside was electricity just flowing through my body. And it was just too much electricity, and my channels weren't open. And pretty much just, it looked like I was having a seizure. So I lost consciousness, and I had to go to the hospital and get stitches or staples or something to get that done. And that's when I realized that, it's not something that I have to prove that I'm actually doing now. I've been doing this for some time, and I don't have to prove to myself or anyone else that it works. Now I need to go back and study the literature and what it was saying, and actually stop mixing techniques and all these things, because it can be really dangerous. Where I wanted to cultivate this energy to heal others, and this was a big example where, if you don't know how to use this energy properly, that you can not only hurt yourself, but you can hurt other people as well. Um, just one example of Kriya Yoga and the power in it, or the power in Qigong, pranayama in general, being able to be in control of this energy, cultivating this energy body that we have. That kind of led me into acupuncture, learning about the channels. I found a really good acupuncturist after going through many different acupuncturists. I found one in Colorado Springs, Chin's Acupuncture. The first reading that I ended up getting from him, or most people might just ask you questions or maybe check your pulse or whatever it is. He had me to stand back against the wall with my hand palms out and tongue out, and he was analyzing my body, and I can feel like this intense heat within my hands. Hands were on fire, and I can feel like this beam was coming from his third eye. I couldn't see it, but I can feel it like analyzing me. And it was one of the most profound things that I've seen from a healer's aspect. And he was able to tell me everything that was wrong with my body, all the physical imbalances and things that I had, and how to put those things back together. Really good evolutionary times as I was going through, just trying to develop myself consciously. From there, we learned from Deepak Chopra, learned a lot of things from a guy named Mahesh Yogi. He has a school in Iowa called, used to be called Maharshi University of Management. Now it's Maharshi's International University. We went there to see the neighborhood. Found out Oprah had did some things there. Most of all of her employees and people that she works with studies the transcendental meditation technique. So this intrigued me to stop there one day and find out more about the university and the community. There's actually a whole community that's based around TM. So me and my wife went there, stopping there for one day from Chicago, and we were intrigued, to say the least. One of the big things that stood out to me was Stapachivade, which is a way of building homes that's in alignment with natural law. And another thing was the yogic flying, also the regenerative organic agriculture program. So property preservation, as I told you, that was something that I was into at the time. Um, we were go in and the banks owned the properties. We would go in and cut grass, change plumbing, do pipes, whatever needed to be done to keep the property preserved until the bank sold them during that crash area. Um, and I got pretty good at that, but it wasn't an ideal situation. What I wanted to do more was to get into investing. And we were just in the process of starting a new business opportunity, me and my wife, once we found out about MIU, MUM, whatever. And so we couldn't commit to going to school then. We wanted to, but um, I ended up getting some credit that came through. My next tiers of credit started to come through, so I used that to buy into a program called Fortune Builders that teaches people how to do real estate investing. So we formed our first business together. My second business, Noah's Ark Investments. Um, and this was a real estate investing company, and we were using the principles basically on how to fix and flip properties. That was the big thing until we found out about the Deposit Aid. And then at that time, we knew that we wanted to go into that direction of sustainability and building an alignment with natural law, the laws of nature, how to have a house or business that can align you and evolve you as a conscious being. And we wanted to make this also a part of our business. So we started to make transitional steps then to make that reality, and we're kind of into the full process of that now. Ari's now, she's doing her master's in sustainability, and we're adding all these things into our business now. But this was another big thing for us that changed the direction of where we were going and what we were doing to help humanity as a whole. Um, we went from there. After we got into Fortune Builders, we things just kept progressing for us. So we took and went to do 6 months in Florida, where we were looking for properties and looking for investment properties, rental properties, different things like that. Um, by the end of that year, we found out about another program called Fund and Grow. You know, as you begin to put your awareness in certain areas, things just start to open up for you, and they just kept manifesting and manifesting for us. The more we continue to work on our bodies, our minds, our consciousness, and we found a place called Fund and Grow. I've done testimonials on Fund and Grow before. Fund and Grow was a significant part of our journey. They help to build business credit. All that being said, on me working with them, they end up getting me into a next tier of credit, business credit, where I was approved for $69,000 to go into real estate and do other different things. So by now, I had built up from 2013 when I started at a 500 credit score. I had built up to a 730, 740 credit score, and I had over $120,000 in credit lines. Um, all these things are achievable. And I wanted to mention all of these things to give hope in all areas. Wherever you may be having your challenges at, I think is everything's all achievable. So we went through Fund and Grow. We also went to South America that year. Previously, from 2015 to 2018, I think that was, I had done the mushrooms maybe 6 or 7 times. One of the most profound times on the mushrooms was I got some downloads about me and Ariel and who we were, where we came from, what we came here to do. And not sure if you ever heard of a twin flame before, but a twin flame is two souls or one soul that's incarnated into two bodies. They did this because their purpose was so big that they weren't able to accomplish it with just one avatar. I also got the information of the Hebrew lineage and where both of us started. I'm saying Hebrew And I'm not talking about a color or ethnicity or whatever it may be. I'm talking about a extraterrestrial race. If you know about the Hebrews, they were a ET race that came to Earth to help humanity grow. They came back during Atlantis. It was 10 cities in Atlantis. 8 of those cities were occupied, and those 10 cities had 10 vortexes, energy vortexes on them. Um, the Hebrews came to one of those energy vortexes during that time. It's many different extraterrestrial races that's here. 52 of them just within our galaxy and our neighborhood. Um, I know of a few of them: the Zulus, the Hebrews, the Blue Avians, the Pleiadians. But me and Ari came from that Hebrew extraterrestrial place planet. And we all came here to help humanity grow, to help Earth evolve so that everyone, the whole galaxy and universe, therefore evolves if this one place does. So, the reason why the Hebrews are, you want to say, God's chosen people is simply because they have knowledge of astronomy. If you think of one place in the universe, are the central sun, where all energy comes from, kind of like this Big Bang, where everything started. Um, the Hebrews actually know the location, they know the coordinates, they have like GPS knowledge of where this place in space is. And this was makes them, um, in biblical terms, God's chosen people. They know where creation actually started, and they know how to reach there. So, um, me and Ari decided to come here and give this information out. But one thing that we were having problems was when you come from a different planet, a different atmosphere, you have to adapt and learn with these new parameters and paradigms that you're in. And we didn't know how to access this information within our DNA. It was locked, it was encoded. I remember seeing a vision of us there with Moses at that time. This was all during this mushroom experience. And it was very profound, but we weren't able to grasp, just like a lot of people that they talk about in the Bible, even though Moses showed all of these gifts, we weren't able to grasp the information. So, what we decided to do, and this is how the twin flame aspect came out, is that we both decided to, as a soul split, have our own separate incarnations. She stayed as a Hebrew lineage because if you leave that Hebrew lineage, then you don't continue to have access of the information. This was the main reason why the Pharaoh, Hitler, went after these Hebrew individuals, is because they knew they had a cosmic awareness and they wanted this information that I was just telling you about. In order to access it, we had to find out how to unlock this information within our DNA. So I decided to take my path was to learn about the ancient Indian traditions and the ancient Chinese traditions on how to enhance the physiology and enhance the DNA so that we can um, retrieve the information. And Ari's journey was to simply hold the knowledge until we were ready. And we decided that we would come back together um, in the right time. Actually, the time is now. It's the ascension process that we're about to go through. In order for us to get the information within the correct time frame, that we had to make this split and go and do our separate ways, come back when it was time, and then complete our purpose together. So that was a pretty big um, realization, cognizing that information, and it really put a different perspective on plant medicine in general. So I said about maybe 6 or 7 times in that 4 year period, 3, 4 year period. And then I was led to ayahuasca. So at the end of 2018, everything was going really well. just got some new credit lines, the business, all of these different things were going good for us. We spent those 6 months in Florida, and we decided to take a trip to South America to see a shaman in Tarapoto. And this was the shaman was profound in ayahuasca. So we took an ayahuasca journey, and this is another plant medicine and something that helped me get to um, my next level of consciousness. Excuse me. Um, I'll just say what I was looking for, I was able to achieve, but it really frightened me. It was a scary experience where I had been learning all these things from Yogananda about how the soul is separate from the body. The soul incarnates into the body. The soul is made in the image of God. It's made in the image of the Creator, and I wanted to experience that myself. Um, and I was able to. But I was forced out of my body. The ayahuasca actually forced me, my soul self, out of my physical body, and it scared the shit out of me, just to say the least. Um, I'm not gonna even go into the whole experience. If you want to talk to me, we can talk about those. I just had a conversation with someone who was asking me more about that, and I'll just say that I got what I was looking for. And after that, I never felt the need to do plant medicines again. That I realized that all the techniques and things that I had been learning of Kriya Yoga and Transcendental Meditation, all these different things, that I actually had the tools to do it, and that it would happen gradually. Not trying to force energy around or take plant medicine, just I had a routine that I can follow that will get me to these highest states of consciousness, and that if I simply use them on a daily basis and follow my routine, that it'll all happen for me in due time when my physiology is ready. So um, after that, I really felt one with myself. Um, and that's when I got back into enlightened individuals. So we got back from Peru in January, I want to say 2019, 18, something, one of those years. And we started the nonprofit organization. I guess that was 18 because it's been 2 years now. Um, started the nonprofit organization on March 2nd, 2018. Um, got the nonprofit up and going. I end up contacting a business consultant where we paid them to help us build the foundational aspects of enlightened individuals. And I also got into a contact with a company called Harbor Compliance, who does 1023 applications. Those applications are really extensive. And I didn't have the knowledge or understanding to do that. So we hired out to do that as well and put the application together. Um, I reached out to some individuals that I've had in my past experiences. Besides me and my wife, 5 other individuals that now sit at the board of directors of Enlightened Individuals. We've already been in play now for 2 years. We have quarterly board meetings. Everything has been going well. Actually, today we're sending in our application to get our 1023 501c3 certification, where we can now start to give out tax deductible donation receipts for anyone who's donating. We received a pretty significant donation just recently, this week actually, from an anonymous donor to get those things started. So I thank you for that. And the nonprofit has been going really well. It's basically everything. Well, I'll just say my part because all 7 of us are putting our own things together to make the foundational aspects of that. So everything that I've learned over these past 10 years coming up now, and how to help myself grow. I've seen that it's happening through more than just one religion or one way, or it's many ways. many traditions, many religions that can help you with your evolutionary process. I'm giving you through me, my way of how that works. My wife, she'll have her way and what she believes in, the Hebrew and traditions, and it's the five other individuals who are also combining their knowledge on how to make this evolutionary process become an enlightened individuals. So we're all we all been on this path and this journey together. It's been a really good journey. I'm glad that I took the initiative to get that started, and everything's been going great since then. Um, my business consultant, she had me to really develop what it was that I wanted to do because as a nonprofit organization, even though I'm the founder, me and my wife are the founders of the organization. It's not our company. It's everyone's company, everyone's organization. It's for the people. No one can own a nonprofit organization. So the bylaws that we set up is that if you want to be on the board, you can have a 3-year term, 2 3-year terms actually, if you're voted in again. Um, and then after that, then you have to go into a different position. So it was my business consultant was saying, what do you really want this to be for yourself once it's fully developed, everything's functional, and where do you want to go with that? And this is a question that I had not asked myself really at that time. What was my position or where did I want to be in the company? So she encouraged me through everything that I was telling her on my journey to enroll into Maharshi's University and really get the knowledge that I was looking for through the Stapati Ved to build communities, through Ayurveda, through organic agriculture, through all these different things, and see what it is that you want to develop. So after attending, I've been in there for 2 years now at Maharshi University, and what I decided to take my degree in was Ayurveda. That was the thing that changed my life the most. Plant medicine was okay. It really was the start of everything, but taking a physical route to enlightenment, which is something Maharshi said, higher states of consciousness has really nothing to do with new ideas or moods or attitudes, but everything to do with the physiology. Most importantly, the nervous system, refining the nervous system, and brain coherence. So everything that I had been doing, whether it was these asanas, yoga, eating different foods, doing the panchakarma, the detoxification process, the daily routine, lifestyle, herbs, all of these things were taking a physical route, acupuncture, to higher states of consciousness. And this is how my life started to really take a new direction. The transformation really took place. I had a place to focus on, and things continued to manifest for me in a positive way. Um, so I've been doing this Ayurvedic degree now. I have a year left. Once I'm finished with that, I'm actually going to start an acupuncture, doctorates of acupuncture in Oriental medicine. Shortly after I actually started, we actually the Rob report I want to say that I was telling you about earlier, um, the number 2 place was actually Fiji. And so we went to, we got our marriage and we had our marriage in Fiji. Everything worked out really well. It was a really great experience. Something that that I had been trying to create for 10 years prior, 8 years prior, and it actually manifested. These are all examples I said to give hope to people on what they can and can't do if they put their mind to it and they want to change. Um, Things went from there to developing Utopian Health, which is the company I talked about earlier that I was trying to actually get started today, the health and wellness spa. Once I was able to find my direction with Ayurveda and my degree, this is the way that I wanted to give back to enlightened individuals. So moving forward with that, will have this organization, Utopian Health, that gives services to enlightened individuals for little to no cost, to help people to evolve their consciousness as humans. So, besides that, one of the last things I'll talk about is the Raju family and the Panchakarma of Ayurveda Panchakarma system that they have. Um, Me and my wife just recently went to India. Well, I found out about Dr. Raju. He came to Maharshi University last year. Found out about his systems approach to health. And because me and my wife are looking to have babies this year, we decided to go out to India to get this Panchakarma cleanse done. Very profound. Again, it was something that changed my life in 2015, but we were only able to do the 10 days. This time we were able to do, I did 4 weeks, she did 6 weeks. It's much cheaper out in India to make that happen, so that's why we went that direction. And this was an actual Vaidya who checks pulse, helps you get through all these imbalances, and something that we weren't able to achieve at the Chopra Center. So we just finished that up. I said, I guess, got back from India about 2 weeks ago. One of the biggest significant changes that I've been able to see is my awareness has now went to more of a cosmic level, more of the celestial beings, angels, they might want to be called, or devatas, however you may want to see them. And my awareness continues to develop, conscious development, higher states. And again, so the reason why I put all this out is to instill hope in others. You know my path now, you know where I've been, where I started, how it's all developed, and you now know that it's through development you can actually get to that change yourself. I'll be putting out more content and more videos on specific ways on how all these things work. If you want to contact me, more than welcome to. And I hope this helped out a lot of people. Feel free to reach out anytime. I'm glad I was able to share this experiences with you guys today on this special day. And I look forward to hearing from you all. Thank you.